Hello and welcome to the GrowCFO Show. I'm your host, Kevin Appleby, and today I'm with Catherine Clark. Catherine, hello and welcome to the show.
Hi, Kevin. Hi. Thank you for having me on today. Thank you.
Now, Catherine, you're a coach and a mentor, and we're going to talk about mentoring today, but how did you become a mentor when you've been an accountant in the past?
Well, I guess for me, it was a very natural progression. I started sort of my career at KPMG, qualified as a chartered accountant, and then went on to work at a number of multinational companies. And I became a group CFO of a global consultancy a number of years ago now, and spent nearly 10 years with them on the board. And I think I've just always loved mentoring my teams and people around me. It's just been something I've really enjoyed doing. And I think almost my philosophy on life is anything I learned, I wanted to share. And I just really focused not just on my own development from a sort of self perspective, and also from a work perspective. And the sort of parts coming together meant I had a lot of experience and knowledge to share with people and help them progress in their roles.
It's fantastic. So how do you start mentoring somebody in your team? That doesn't feel like a natural conversation that would be sort of, hey, I want to mentor you.
No, I think with your own teams, it's not as direct as that. I think with your own teams, you're there to support them and provide them the support and direction to get to where they want to be. And I actually found the conversations in my own teams very, very honest, because I saw them day in, day out and how they operated, where their strengths were, where their development points were. It actually made mentoring actually very easy and very direct. And I think because they knew I was coming from a place of support, they were very open to receiving it. I think I was also mentoring along the side on a voluntary basis for the Aspire Foundation, which was about matching women at the time in the commercial sector with women in the not-for-profit sector. And I actually helped a couple of women who become CEOs of their charities. And that was so different. It was non-finance related. And I think that combination of mentoring was when I realized how much of a passion I had for it.
So as you do that and start mentoring folks that don't have a finance background at all and are operating in the third sector, what sort of issues did you find were the common ones that you needed to talk about?
Yeah, there's two common ones which come up in any mentoring I do, whether that be for aspiring finance leaders, aspiring CFOs of CEOs of charities, even directors in businesses. The two key ones are self-confidence and self-esteem. And they're at the core of all of the mentoring. And I think that's my real passion, to sort of allow people to try and overcome that, and give them the confidence to believe in their potential, because it's their lack of self-confidence or self-belief that's actually holding them back for everything they can achieve.
Now that's surprising, because I would have thought the sort of person who would become a CFO or would become a CEO would have bags of self-confidence.
Yes, I would have agreed with you, and I think that's something I believed as well. And even when I joined the board, I looked around me and I thought, oh, they're all so much more confident than I am. Inside, I didn't have the same confidence as I felt other people had. But the more exposure I've had to senior leaders in business, or in the not-for-profit sector, I realised that everyone has their own insecurities.
Is this something you might call imposter syndrome?
Yes, that is a term for it. And many people I start mentoring use that term quite early on. And they genuinely believe at that point they don't deserve to be where they are. And yet, of course, they do. I mean, they've worked really hard over a number of years and have so much knowledge and experience. Of course, they deserve to be where they are. They're intelligent people. And it's just about mapping that belief into what they can actually do in the role.
What sort of things would you do then practically to overcome that kind of challenge?
I think the first point really is acknowledgement. It's about people understanding that that's what's holding them back. And I do a lot of work on limiting beliefs. And, you know, someone might in their own mind think I'm not good enough. And I think that the good thing with a mentoring relationship is because you're going in like a trusted friend. I mean, that's a nice way of putting it, like a trusted friend and supporter. People are very open as to what they're feeling. So really the starting point is, how are you feeling? And then I work with them on their strengths. I get them to almost validate for themselves why they're why they're so good, you know, why they deserve to be where they are. And, you know, one exercise I like doing is just to think back to all of the times in your life, in whichever context, you felt really confident. And to put, you know, to describe that in your mind and then to actually replicate that in future scenarios, so that you can almost go back to a point in time where you felt really super confident, and then use that when you step into a new situation.
Yeah, I love that idea. Now, you spoke at the beginning of that about developing trust, and that must be a key part of this. How do you go about developing trust with that person that you're mentoring?
Yeah, it always starts with what's called like a chemistry call. So before any mentoring starts, there's a, you know, 30 minutes, 1 hour session, one-on-one, where you actually get to work out if you and the mentee have the chemistry that's needed to move forwards. So that's when I think the trust is first established. Being able to know that you can work with this person and be very open. And the trust just builds over time. I mean, it's a very confidential process. Nothing is shared outside of the session. And it's just a really free form time, really sort of time for yourself, really, as the mentee, to really have someone listen to you, actively listen to anything that you may be worried about, any concerns, any current issues. And really, you know, as a mentor, act as a sounding board. And I can help them. I can bring in my own experience and knowledge and anything I've learned really to help them. But it's about that sort of person realizing they can also get to their own answers with the right support, and someone really supporting them and their progression, but also their just general well-being as well.
That reflects something, a little phrase that I've picked up over time. 2 ears, one mouth. Use them in that proportion.
I haven't heard that one before.
Yeah, it sounds like you're doing an awful lot of listening there.
Yeah, listening for me is the key skill, and I mean conscious listening. It's not about being somewhere else. I mean, it's why, you know, you can't do mentoring session after mentoring session. I have to come in with a certain energy, and a real commitment to helping that person, and I have to be present. You know, that's the key skill. It's about being present and listening, and I just hope my mentees can see that, and that's also where the trust comes from, that, you know, they are my priority in that session, and I will make them the priority. And if you think in life, how often in life does someone consciously and presently listen to you for, you know, an hour or 90 minutes?
Certainly doesn't happen very often. What's your process then before you start a mentoring session to get into the right mindset?
Well, I'm very I I love maintaining my own energy. It's something I learned to do sort of over the years, because I really believe, let's say any leader, but, you know, CFO in particular at the moment, it's such a key role in an organisation. You have to have your own personal energy and an ability to sustain yourself over the longer term. You know, everyone is busy all the time, and you've got to get the right balance in your life to maintain your own energy to keep moving forwards. So I'm a very keen, I do a lot of yoga, so I try and do that each morning. And alongside walking, I really enjoy getting some fresh air and doing some walking each day as well. But in that sense, making some time for myself to do some kind of activity, which is either good for me physically or good for me mentally as well.
You take on mentoring roles for CFOs these days.
Yeah.
So what would that relationship look like? Is that something that would be a couple of sessions, or would that be something that would go on over a longer period? What does that feel like?
I mean, in some ways that's completely up to the mentee. So it can be a very flexible arrangement. Traditionally or commonly, it's maybe at least 6 sessions, and sort of generally once a month. So that would be a sort of normal set of sessions. Having said that, I have a program of 12. So people could either have all 12 or they could have a selection of. What I find is, though, I have enough structure to make sure I know what people need to know. I've been in that role. I've been a CFO. I understand the challenges and what I learned over the time, as in the breadth of what needs to be done. But I very much work on, what is affecting someone at a point in time. So I don't apply a structured approach. I allow current issues to come into the session, and I just engage with that and sort of work off that, which I think is what I find, the sort of great challenge about it. I don't sometimes know what's coming up, but I have a toolbox of things that I can refer back to if I need to. But fundamentally, because I've been there and, I've been in that role, and therefore I'm sharing what I've learned, and it's very relevant to the people I'm mentoring, I can just adapt according to what comes up.
So we talked about that insecurity thing, about that not being good enough thing. What other key issues do you find cropping up over a course of mentoring sessions?
Yeah, so at the end of the day, you can sometimes get to CFO and and start to believe that you can't ask for help or support. You get to the board level and you feel like you should know everything. You've been given the responsibility, so to almost ask for help doesn't feel a very natural thing to do. So quite often it's, well, actually, what is strategy? How do I produce a financial strategy? Can you please help me, think this through? Am I doing the right thing? So sometimes it's actually just pure validation of someone's own thinking process. It's not bringing any huge insights, but it's it's okay, you are doing the right thing. You are thinking the right way. And again, it's building confidence in their thinking process and also in their decision making.
I guess some of that is to do with the kind of route that an awful lot of CFOs have taken to get to that position. They've probably come up through being financial controller, head of finance, and very much in the back office doing numbers-based roles. And suddenly the whole world changes when you get to board level. And rather than just reporting numbers, you've got to take a huge involvement in strategy. So I can understand how suddenly you've got to a very senior level, and then you're confronted with stuff you've never been asked to do before. That's a tricky one. It really is a big shift to do a whole load of stuff they never told you to do to pass those accountancy exams years ago. And yeah, so.
Well, you are having to suddenly think and act as a leader of your organization. And even if you'd had a title before, which was, arguably a number one finance role, you still wouldn't have had that responsibility on your shoulders. And, suddenly you're becoming a boardroom leader, an influential leader, an inspirational leader. You've gone from being fairly inwardly focused in finance, possibly quite data-led, but really quite functional, to being a genuine leader of a wider business. And therefore it changes. You've got to be influential in the culture, creating that trust, being part of the vision of the organization. And people are looking up to you in that role, and they want to be inspired by what you're doing, as well as the impact and input that you're having on the rest of the business as well.
I guess as well, you've been very much inward facing, looking after the finance part of the business. When you're at board level, there must be a tendency to need to be much more outward focusing. There must be suppliers to talk to, customers to talk to, investors to talk to, and so on. Is that something that you're commonly seeing as an issue?
Yeah, I mean, as you say, there's many, many stakeholders, and you do have to have the communication skills and really the presence and gravitas to sort of manage and communicate with those stakeholders. There's various different, when I say presentations you have to give, but they've all got to be geared to a different audience. So it's not anymore about just presenting financials, it's presenting yourself as a confident leader, and producing insights that are relevant to that particular audience.
I guess that means a major change in presentation style as well. You're not turning up at the meeting and saying, "Oh well, here's this month's results. Here's the profit we made. Here's the various cost issues we've got in the business, and here's the variance analysis behind that, all the good stuff that we were taught when we passed our exams about why things are different from budget." And I know a few accountants that have managed to bore the pants off their team by that sort of thing. You're actually there trying to present, to communicate a message and to tell a story. So that's a very, very different set of presentation skills. So how easy is that to teach, Catherine?
Well, I think it starts, in my opinion anyway, with body language. So what I found actually was that quite often it wasn't what I said, it was how I said it. And what my body language actually gave away. So in fact, there were many presentations, maybe in AGM, where in fact I didn't get any questions because actually my whole body language was very positive. We'd had a good year, we had good results, and that was all that people needed to know, because you've got to give that almost faith for people that things are running okay, and that's where the CFO has such an important role to play. We're very straight up in that sense. Things are good, or maybe not so good, but you've got to work out ways of showing that with your body language as well. So there are definitely tips for improving how you present yourself to an audience, even if it's as simple as your posture, and feeling possibly bigger than you do, so that comes across to the audience.
And that's an interesting one. And I've heard examples of people almost putting themselves into a character, avatar of themselves before they get up on the stage to do that kind of presentation. So it's not them, but it's this alter ego of themselves that they've stepped into in order to do it. Is that something that rings true?
Yeah, because you have to show up how people wish you to show up. So, and this is why confidence is so important, because people are looking to you in that CFO role to be you're the financial conscience of a company. There's a lot of responsibility there, for making sure the financial position of the company is fit for the current time and also for the future. And so people are looking for you to be who they wish you to be. If you approach situations and your body language is a bit slouched, and maybe there's no smile, or it's very inward, people won't believe in what you're doing in the role and how you're looking after the organization.
That's got to be very difficult to overcome, I'd have thought, because that's built upon years and years and years of habit, the way you do things.
Yeah, yes, yes, but we all can change habits. I've actually just done a workshop on changing habits. So you can change your habits as long as you identify the cue, the thing that's actually driving that behavior in the first place, which again is where mentoring comes in, because if you can acknowledge that is something you don't feel so strong about, it's definitely an area where mentoring can help you.
Catherine, it sounds as though you do all sorts of things. You just prepared a workshop on changing habits. That doesn't sound like mentoring. That sounds like stepping into a whole training world.
Well, I've been doing some workshops for a mental health charity. And so a lot of the people on the calls have either anxiety or depression. So I really enjoy sort of looking at mental well-being. And so in this case, I've done a series of workshops, around building confidence and self-esteem, or changing habits, or keeping calm and focused. So it's about allowing people to take small steps forward towards making them feel better, or their lives to feel better and fuller. And I adapt them accordingly depending on the audience, and how far people want to go. Some people do have big visions about what they want to achieve. Other people are just trying to live a better life day to day. So I think what it comes down to, I enjoy teaching, in whichever context that is, whether it's one-to-one mentoring, which is, a lot of my time, or group mentoring, arguably through the training sessions.
Which of those do you get most satisfaction from?
Both, genuinely both, actually. I just have no, I honestly just feel now, I'm very, very happy in my life. I feel like this is really my purpose, to help people. And therefore, whoever needs my help, I'm willing to give it. So I really, it's definitely both. I love the process of seeing people, I'm going to say transform. That's quite a big word. But I love seeing that change in people. And that can happen so quickly. So both in a workshop or in a one-to-one session, I can see the light almost coming on in people's eyes when they start to recognize what they're learning and how that can move them forwards.
I suppose what we should talk about here, we've got a mentoring program starting up within GrowCFO, haven't we?
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us a little bit about that, Catherine?
Yeah, I'm very, very excited by this. And we have future CFOs coming on to the Future CFO program. There's also a second program on first-time CFOs, and I can help both. And really, when you're looking at aspiring CFOs or future CFOs, it's really about providing them the support to achieve the goal they want to achieve, which is generally CFO, finance director. And that can be in any time scale in a way, but something that's on the horizon. They can see it on the horizon, and they almost need to make the steps towards showing that they can deliver at that level. When you're talking about people who are already a finance director or a CFO, it's then about providing the support to make sure they feel supported in their role, supported in their new responsibilities. And it just complements the program, because it's a very personal process. And that's the thing, everyone is different. Everyone's going to have their own strengths, their own weaknesses, their own things that they want to work on. And the mentoring can be very much geared to each of those individuals.
What's the process of working out what it is that each individual will want? How do you go about assessing that at the beginning of those sessions?
Well, mentoring is actually mentee-led, not mentor-led. So prior to the session starting, there will be a chemistry call, which is a one-to-one call. If I was the mentor, it'd be a one-to-one call with myself, where we would not only find out if there was the right chemistry and the right connection to take that forward, there would also be a detailed discussion on the outcomes that were required from the mentoring. And to check that the mentor can always actually support the mentee to achieve their outcomes. That's where the process starts, and then it goes into a slightly more detailed process around that person, where they're at, what their concerns are, really going into detail around what support they may need and why, and so that the sessions can be geared accordingly. So even if they become very flexible and adaptable to current issues, by the end of the program, the outcomes will have been achieved.
That's brilliant. And alongside that, we've got lots of other resources, haven't we? There's an online training course. Well, I'm saying online training course. There are multiple courses within. There are two programs, as you rightly said. Future CFO and first time CFO. There's an overlap of some of the material between both of those, but what we're building as time goes on is a big library of online courses. So If you want to find out something about strategy, well, within that program, there'll be a strategy course. If you want to find out something about taking cost out of your business, well, there'll be a course on that you can pick up, as well as the mentoring sessions. And we're also got cohort groups working where you can work together with other people in your peer group and share experiences, share knowledge. And I think that's really powerful. And I put that together with some mentoring. I think there's a really, really powerful package for that first time CFO.
Well, there's a brilliant balance between, as you say, the potential to have a one-to-one mentor, or to have, in effect, group mentoring, with some kind of facilitation with the cohort groups. And in both scenarios, as a mentor, you can act in the capacity of a sounding board, bringing, experience and knowledge in, but also challenging people to think in a different way. And in both cases, they're both sort of gearing towards action. So, really courage and therefore confidence actually comes from taking action. It's not just about thinking things through, it's about takeaways and actions that people can implement to achieve their own personal outcomes.
That is absolutely spot on, that it is about putting stuff into action. And that's why this isn't just an online learning program.
No.
Reading about something, getting the theory about something is way different to actually the practical steps you take to implement it back in your own boardroom, back with your own team, with the wider business. Yeah. So
there are definitely scenarios in work which none of us will have ever come across. I mean, that's the excitement of working as a CFO, sorry. You're growing a business, hopefully, and new things come up all the time, and you need to think there's not going to be a set answer for that decision. It's about thinking through all of the different factors, and really coming to a decision yourself as to what fits comfortably with the direction that you wish to go in.
And like you, I've worked as a consultant over the years, and every time you go into a new client, it's a different problem. You'll have a toolkit in your back pocket, and you don't just get the toolkit out and use it. You've got to work out which bits of it you need to use, how to tweak it, how to apply it. Absolutely. And for me, that's the interesting bit about both consulting and coaching. It's working out, it's kind of, instinctively the sort of things you've got to do, but it's how do you tailor them to that exact situation? And that's what always keeps things fresh for me.
And if you don't mind me saying, coaching is quite different from mentoring, in that mentoring is very much about, and I think this is why we're focusing a lot on mentoring. It's because you can actually bring in people experienced in that particular field. So we're looking at, experienced CFOs mentoring, aspiring and first-time CFOs. Coaching can be done by someone who is not a CFO or has not been in that position. I think what I like to do in mentoring is bringing some elements of coaching, because I do believe there are some good and challenging questions which really get people to think. But mentoring does allow the experience to come into the sessions, which is quite separate from coaching, which is really quite question-led.
I think one of the strengths we've got in GrowCFO is actually we've got enough people to give us a good mixture of both.
Yeah.
And you could be mentoring somebody and they could come up with a specific problem. For instance, it could be a CFO thinking for the first time about, well, how do I put a performance dashboard together? Oh, go talk to Kevin. He put the methodology together for PwC. So you're mentoring, I could be coaching.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the advantages of the team that we have, is that we all understand each other's skills and background, and therefore we're not going to try and take it for ourselves. It's about putting the mentee or the person with the right person that can support them, which is why understanding the outcomes that each person wants to achieve is so key up front, so they can be paired with the right people who've had the right experience.
Absolutely. So, Catherine, I suppose one question comes up at this point. It's, if you want to mentor, how do you find out more?
Well, I hope we're going to sort of share, the mentors that we have that are available for the program. And I think the first thing, in my view, is to take advantage of a free, and it is a free chemistry call. Because in that sort of even 30 minutes, you can find out how mentoring can be beneficial to yourself. And actually even look on, some of our, look at our testimonials and things from what people have said about the mentoring that we've done in the past, and see the benefits that people are getting from, really getting the support to reach their potential. I look at this, I haven't got numbers, but if you think of the value of someone's time, if you get the right support at the right time, you will accelerate how you feel and how confident you feel and how well and how much value you bring to that company. And for every hour that you don't get that right support, it is costing you and the organization. You're not in the right place to, bring your full potential to the table. And because I believe in, having a really good balance in life, again, if you're stressing about something or something doesn't feel comfortable, every hour that's happening is away from something you may enjoy. It could be family time or an activity that you enjoy. So my view is just, I really do support, because I've had them myself in the past, the support and the mentorship to just accelerate you to where you want to be at a quicker pace. Take the knowledge from someone. Don't feel alone.
When
Take what you
when
need
you
to
put it
take.
that way, Catherine, this is a no-brainer almost, because
That's how I see it. But
nearly everybody's in the position that they don't know what they don't know, and
correct.
somebody else that can just push you a little bit further along that road, just that bit quicker.
Yep.
Has to be a win-win to everybody.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. And I've been lucky over the years to have people who've done that for me. So I guess it's my giving back, really. It's why not? It's something I enjoy. I love doing. I love seeing people's progression and their development. And why not take what someone else has learned over the time? And fundamentally, particularly the role of CFO, it's very much geared to driving value for your organization. So why not drive value quicker than you could do otherwise?
And I always think there's a case of people in general not investing enough in themselves. And think about, for instance, how much do you spend in your typical working week? Okay, I know we've all been in lockdown and things like this, but in a normal situation, how much do you spend in a typical week on going into Costa or Starbucks for a cup of coffee or things like that? Add that number up, work out what it comes to over a year, and I'd challenge you to say, are you spending as much time on your personal development as you are on your coffee drinking habit? And if the answer is no, you need to do something about it.
I mean, it's in terms of investment, I do believe when you look at it's a very small investment for what I believe you can gain. And, if you looked at it purely financially, it becomes such a tiny proportion of your future earnings. If you look at it purely financially, let alone if you actually look at the benefits to yourself, really. I mean, you want to sort of show up as your best self. I mean, that's surely the goal, to be able to show up how you wish to show up, really. And if you're not quite in that place, then what's the gap and how can someone support you to get there? But in that place, the fulfillment is so much stronger. I know it's a bit cliche in a way, but I just think you've got to enjoy the journey. Even an outcome like getting a board position is still part of a journey. It keeps going on, and why not enjoy it? I think that's my philosophy anyway, is just enjoy that progress and that progression and that responsibility. You're in a really powerful position to make a big difference.
Totally agree. And it's something that certainly over the last few years I've come to learn, where there's always been some goal somewhere further down the path. And it's always felt as though, well, never quite reached that goal yet, never quite reached that goal. And there's always something, oh, well, it'll be all right when we get there.
Mm.
But no, enjoy the journey. The
And it's
journey
got to
is as
feel,
important as the final destination.
and it has to feel authentic to you. I really strongly believe in creating leaders and great leaders that are authentic and themselves. And so many people believe they have to change who they are to fit into a role. I don't believe that. You've got to be yourself, and that's where you'll be at your best.
So that's a great note to end on. Quote that back to me again. You've got to be yourself
To be your best.
best.
Yes.
Wow.
That is just something that came to me. I haven't, that's not, yeah, you have.
So we'll put some details in the show notes of how to contact Catherine, how to contact Dan Wells if you want to take mentoring further forward personally. We'd love to chat with you and whatever, and you can go and join the GrowCFO portal free at growcfo.net and join the community. There's another couple of thousand of CFOs or potential CFOs in there, and it costs nothing to be part of that big community, and you get into some very, very interesting discussions and take it from there. There's no commitment to go and spend more to start with on things like mentoring, online learning, or so on. Just come along and be part of the community and join in. So, Catherine, thank you very much. That has been a super podcast. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. It was really enjoyable. Thank you.